Elan Journo here from the Ayn Rand Institute with some initial commentary on the Iran-Israel conflict. Hours ago, it appears that Israeli forces retaliated against Iran. The main target appears to have been a military facility in the city of Isfahan. What led up to this? Last Saturday, you might remember, Iran attacked Israel with more than 200 drones and missiles. The attack was unprecedented because it took Iran's war against Israel out of the shadows of a proxy fight through forces such as Hezbollah and Hamas. On Saturday, I offered some initial comments on that. You can watch the video. My basic view is that Iran is the Putin of the Middle East, but even worse than that, because Iran is an Islamist regime with imperialistic ambitions. And it is the inspiration of the Islamist movement and has been for decades. It's central to that movement. Israel and the United States had abundant reason to retaliate against Iran because of its years of aggression. For more on that, take a look at my books, What Justice Demands, and also Failing to Confront Islamic Totalitarianism. That brings us to Israel's response in the early hours of April 18th. Two comments on this. First, if this is the full extent of Israel's response, it is far, far too meager. Iran's attack was an attempted mass murder. Israel's response so far is what you would do for a minor crime like pickpocketing. It's not even close to what is necessary here, which I regard as the removal of the Islamist regime in Iran from power. After all, imagine if Iran's 200+ drones and missiles had not been effectively intercepted. Imagine, as was clearly the intention, that Iran had succeeded and it had killed hundreds, if not thousands of people in Israel. And what Israel has done so far, and if this is the full extent of it, is not even close to what you would do in the face of an annihilationist goal in a regime that has been committed for decades to wiping Israel off the map. If this attack is all that Israel does in its self-defense, it will encourage further aggression from Iran and its proxies. Second point. Israel's response reflects the wider moral collapse and bankruptcy of its allies as well, notably the United States, United Kingdom, and others who helped Israel militarily on Saturday in intercepting Iran's missiles. That was a remarkable development that we discovered hours afterwards. Now, the reason I say this is a reflection of moral cowardice and moral bankruptcy is that these leading nations, including the United States, have been pressuring Israel since last week, since Iran's attack, in Joe Biden's words, to take the win. What does that really mean? It means that Israel is supposed to be satisfied with having eliminated Iran's drones in the air. And it must not actually assert its self-interest. It must not actually protect the lives and freedom of its own people by retaliating against this brazen attack. That is moral cowardice. It is shameful. And it appears that Israel, with this, what appears to be its limited strike, and if this is the full extent of it, is complying with that. It's complying with the pressure that all of these nations have been exerting on it for the last few days. And I would argue that it's worse if Israeli leadership, which I think is true, actually thinks this is the right step to take and is not being cornered into this. And I think there's reason to believe that Israel is like the United States in thinking that this is the right kind of response. Now, some people have argued for that position in the last few days. They've argued that a limited Israeli response, apparently what we've seen in the last few hours, would, quote, de-escalate the conflict. This is a fantasy because the conflict didn't start on Saturday, April 13th, nor on April 1st when Israeli forces retaliated against Iranian targets in Syria. This conflict began many, many years ago, and it is self-deluded to imagine that Iran's aggression is confined to Israel, that Iran has, in reality is that Iran has been a proxy war against Israel and the United States for many years. And that is a really important fact that is going unrecognized. And I would argue not only unrecognized, but actively ignored or evaded. So again, I fear that if this is Israel's full response, it reflects both its own moral weakness and that of its allies, notably the United States. And I think this goes to the crux of why this is so bad. It reflects a refusal to recognize that Iran's ideological nature, its militant character, and its ambitions, those are what drive it. And those are crucial to understanding what animates this regime and why it is hostile and threatening to so many of the countries in the region, and to Israel in particular, and to the United States. So this is not even close, in my view, to what Israeli defense requires. And it is an appeasing response, a continuation of decades of Israeli and chiefly American appeasement of an enemy. Those are just my two thoughts for now. We'll come back to this issue as it develops. And I hope you will subscribe to our channel for more of our commentary on this and other subject, and like this video, share it with people. And if you want to learn more about my views on the Middle East and commentary from the Ayn Rand Institute, please take a look at the podcasts on this channel. And if you are interested, take a look at my books, Failing to Confront Islamic Totalitarianism and What Justice Demands, America and the Israeli-Palestinian Conflict.